My Gavanin. How is it going? I'm the Talking Shed, and today we continue our journey. In this part we'll cover episodes 3 and 4 of the Rings of Power, so Adar and the Great Wave. I'll not keep you waiting. Let's do it! Let's rewrite the Rings of Power. Now, let's name the issues in episodes 3 and 4 of the Rings of Power that we'll try to solve in this video. So, still, no news are exchanged between places, nobody knows about the attack on the Southlands. Arondir is released with no reason, and he is even given his weapons back. Hobbits are evil murderers who leave their own to die in the wilderness. There is no reason for the stranger to come to Middle-earth. There is no reason for dwarves to hide Mithril. The only one provided is the fact that it is dangerous to mine, but it explains nothing. There is still Galadriel, who is a spoiled, unbearable brat, and Númenóreans follow her to the Middle-earth, even though they are clearly hostile towards the elves. Before we start, there is also one issue with the story presented in the first part of this series, namely the fact that the stories of Galadriel and Elrond should happen at the same time, but Galadriel had a longer way to travel to Pelargir, so there should be some justification for that, maybe Galadriel having better horses, or maybe some delay in the journey of Elrond, but that's not a big problem to solve. We begin episode 3 with Arondir returning to the Southlands, meeting Bronwyn, and making sure that the news about Orcish army were sent to Elvish commanders. Next, we move to Moria, where Elrond meets Durin. The meeting begins with Durin's reproachful accusations about Elrond never coming to Durin's wedding and disappearing from his life. It is cut by Elrond deducing from Durin's words that his messenger never came. Then we cut to Nori, who meets the stranger for another time. He tries to communicate something that seems very important for him, but he has not enough words to express what he means. Nori is still astonished by his ability to acquire knowledge and language, but she is unable to understand him. We proceed with the arrival of Muriel in Pelargir. We see her coming with her guards and advisors. We see the whole city welcoming her, Halbrand being the first to greet the queen, and Galadriel being the second. Soon after, we see Galadriel during the audience before Muriel. Then we learn something more about the role of Halbrand. Muriel reveals some of the reports that she has received about this man, about his ability to manage resources, to organize people, his ability to rule. But before Galadriel has more time to wonder about this news, something far more influential reaches Pelargir. It is the news about the Orcish army that gathers near the Southlands. This news causes much unrest in the city. Then we return to Moria, where everything is finally answered between Elrond and Durin. Elrond received the invitation to the wedding, but he could not attend it because of some other matters. So he sent a messenger, but it becomes clear that this messenger must have died in his way. So Durin never received the news. He perceived it as an insult, so he never decided to inform Elrond about the birth of his children. The whole matter must have taken shorter than 20 years, maybe 3, maximally 5. This causes Elrond to treat this time a bit more lightly, but he still sincerely apologizes. Then we see Nori and the stranger, who spot the cultists that are searching the crater where the stranger has fallen. The stranger knows that these cultists are looking for him, and that they are very dangerous. Nori understands that too, and she decides to risk very much and to reveal the truth to her people. She knows that she will reveal also that she breached the rules that are very strictly followed by her community, but she still decides to do it, in hope of saving the stranger from obviously malevolent cultists. Then we return to Pelargir, where Muriel talks to Galadriel. Muriel seems to trust Galadriel from the beginning, and definitely now, after Galadriel offers elven help in the upcoming fight against the orcs. In return, Muriel reveals what the news about the orcs that gather near the Southlands mean for the Númenóreans. It is revealed that the Númenórean nobles have waited for a long time for a similar opportunity. They want to enter the Southlands to defeat the orcs and then stay in this land, to use its people and resources, and to turn the Southlands into their colony. Muriel wants a completely different outcome. She plans for the Southlands to become a sovereign kingdom, a place that would be protected by the might of Numenor, but that would not be dependent on it. A place where the people could thrive from beneficial exchanges with Numenor, a place where people could provide some goods for the Numenor as well. This new kingdom would remind the Numenorians that their ancestors once used to come to Middle-earth as gift-givers, as those that enlighten, as those who provide, as those who share their accomplishments. Now they can follow this path too. They can make Southlands a strong kingdom and benefit from it, from trade deals, from military help. It all can be mutually beneficial. But there is one problem. There needs to be a king. And here Muriel reveals what a gift is Halbrand. He is both a Southlander and a charismatic leader who could lead his people into a new era of prosperity. Of course, there needs to be some fabrication of evidence, because Halbrand has no claim to the Southlander throne. Maybe nobody has. But this will not stop Muriel. She wants to achieve her goal with the Southlands, and she will not stop because of this inconvenience. Galadriel approves of Muriel's plan to make Southlands an independent land, but she is not fond of the idea of lying about Halbrand's heritage. As Galadriel goes for a walk to think about these matters, we meet Elendil and Isildur. We get to know these characters. We learn that Isildur is being called by some mysterious voice from Numenor, and he wants to discover what does it mean and how it relates to his brother Anarion. Then we visit Moria once more, where Elrond and Celebrimbor become acquainted with Disa. Celebrimbor tries to gather knowledge about dwarven minds, but Durin does not want to speak about these matters. Then the stranger is revealed to the hobbits, and he gives us a speech, a short one because he does not know much of the language, but he still expresses enough that he was sent by the Valas to fight with Sauron, and that he knows for certain that the enemy is still in Middle-earth. He hopes that his honesty and the importance of his quest will allow for Nori to be exempt from the harsh laws of her people. We move to Pelargir, when we see a failed attempt on Halbrand's life. It is soon revealed that the rumor about the planned role of Halbrand in Queen Muriel's plans was revealed to the public. Then Halbrand meets with the Queen, and Galadriel does not participate in this meeting. We finish episode 3 with the assault that comes on the Southlands. But it does not come from the army that gathered on the borders of this land. It comes from within. From deep underground tunnels there comes a great force of the orcs. And soon the Southlands are entirely occupied by the orcs. Well, not entirely. One small village of indomitable Southlanders still holds out against the invaders. Arondir and his companions help the villagers to gather and lead them to the watchtower that stands near. However, somebody must protect the elderly and children. Arondir goes in the rear guard, and he manages to lead the last of the Southlanders into the tower. But in the skirmish that ensues, he is captured by the enemy. We open episode 4 with Galadriel, who hears the news about Halbrand, who has been murdered. As the news spreads across Pelargir, Galadriel is suddenly asked by Elendil to go outside the city. There, far from anyone's sight, she sees Halbrand, who is very much alive. He and Elendil explain that in order to keep the nobles in their false belief that their plans towards the Southlands are secured, Halbrand's death had to be faked. Now he must wait somewhere else in order to return at the right moment to execute Muriel's plan and leave no time for it to be disrupted. Now, as Halbrand can be safe only among the elves, Muriel asks Galadriel to escort Halbrand to Eregion. From there, he is supposed to return with the forces of elves that were promised to Muriel in the fight against the orcs. Galadriel hesitantly agrees, gives Halbrand 2 elves as guards, and sends him in his way. Then we see imprisoned Arondir, who meets Ada, the leader of the orcs. Arondir gets to know some of the Orcish plans, for example the fact that the main forces that are gathered at the border of the Southlands will not move until all of the Southlands are secured. Then Ada tries to convince Arondir to join him. He tries to argue that orcs deserve better, that even they may change, that maybe the elves make them monsters by fighting with them. But Arondir is not convinced. His counter-argument is that the orcs attacked first. They could go somewhere else, to the east for example, they could disappear, they could negotiate, but they didn't do that. Their attack proves that they know no other life than war. And there is a final question that Arondir asks, a question that does not receive a proper answer. Arondir asks, "Whom do you serve?" And he does not trust Ada's answer, it is too quick, too nervous. He says, "I only serve myself and my children." Then we see the hobbits that gather for a council while they hide from the cultists. They debate what to do with the stranger. Some are frightened, some want to punish Nori, but not too many. Quickly they decide that she is not guilty of anything and that the stranger deserves their help. Then we see Elrond, who in Moria confronts Celebrimbor about him spying on the dwarves. Celebrimbor reveals that the dwarves are hiding a weapon, something that could guarantee victory over the orcs. Elrond asks Celebrimbor to return to Eregion and promises to discover what is going on. Then for a short while we see Galadriel, who is making new plans with the queen. We quickly cut to the stranger, who is almost cast away when it becomes clear that he possesses some dangerous powers. But then Nori gives a speech that changes hobbits' hearts. Then Elrond confronts Durin and asks him about the weapon, but Durin does not give an answer. Soon after we see Halbrand, who reaches Eregion, and there he meets Celebrimbor. Then we see Arondir, who prepares to escape. He makes plans and makes friends. There are quite a few people captured by the orcs, some humans and one or two elves. They all plan their fight against the orcs. Then we go back to Moria, where Elrond follows Durin and discovers the mines of Mithril. Forced by the circumstances, Durin reveals the reason for keeping Mithril in secret. The dwarves are aware that the unique powers of Mithril would attract murderers, conquerors and thieves. In order to protect themselves, they decided to mine as much Mithril as possible and put it to use to make armor that will protect them against any enemy. That's why they keep it in secret. They will reveal it once they are sure that they will be safe. But now the secret of Mithril lies in Elrond's hands. Meanwhile, in Eregion we see Celebrimbor and Halbrand, who are getting along. Though Celebrimbor seems to be a better smith, Halbrand is very skilled. He says that he practiced under the eye of the finest craftsmen of Númenor. Soon after we see the hobbits, who observe the cultists and try to guess their motivation. Then we see Arondir's escape. Using the sun and the joint effort of the imprisoned, he and most of them escape. Now they head for the watchtower. It is also clear that now Arondir's primary goal is to call somebody for help. Maybe elves, Númenorians, well, even the Rohirrim. He just wants to get help for the Southlanders. We finish episode 4 with the disease that appears in the fair land of Eregion. A rampant illness touches the trees and the crops. Nothing can be certain, but it is supposed that in 1 year, Eregion may become uninhabitable. Now let's quickly summarize the changes. First of all, Durin and Elrond, there is a clear reason for the misunderstanding. There is also a reason for the dwarves to hide the mining of Mithril, and there is also a reason why the elves are searching for this metal. The attack on the Southlands is now hidden. The orcs make sure to secure the land before anything is known. And now we have a reason for the message about the events in the Southlands being the primary concern of Arondir. Now also the cultists appear earlier. Their clear goal is to stop the stranger, and they will not mistake him for Sauron. Another change is the fact that hobbits are now not murderers. It is pretty basic for character writing to not make your characters murderers, but here this change had to be introduced. The purpose for the stranger coming to Middle-earth is also revealed. He comes to fight Sauron. This solution also has its own problems, namely the fact that Sauron has not revealed himself yet. And my proposition for solving that problem is the fact that Stranger was sent by the Valars, who have some insight into the future. To what extent they have this power is not clear in the works of Tolkien, so I would avoid using this power, but here I don't think I have a better choice. If I wasn't restricted by the rules of the series, but still for some reason wanted to introduce the Stranger, I would propose to present him in Season 2, as a response to Sauron's appearance. Another change is the change to Númenóreans' motivation. They no longer follow a deluded psychotic stranger, but they protect their own colonies, and they want to expand them. There is also a reason for Muriel wanting Halbrand on the throne of the Southlands, and there is a contrast between her goals and the goals of Númenórean nobles. Halbrand himself has much more agency, and his cunning plan allows him to reach Eregion. And finally, the disease that troubles the elves is not going to bring doom to all the elf kind. We lower the stakes, we still have much conflict, much to lose. It is a vast land and many people live there, and their fate is going to be decided in the following episodes, but there is not a risk for the entire race of the elves. And now I've got some questions for you. What do you think about the structure of the story? I tried to weave all 4 storylines together. Do we jump too much, or maybe it's alright? Please leave your opinion. And what would you do to justify the coming of the Stranger? I would like to hear your ideas. And finally, what do you think about the overall story? Do you like how it's unfolding, or maybe you would change something? I read all your comments. Thank you for them, and thank you for listening. See you soon. Fare you well, Novayer. What would you do? The fact that
Subscribe right now, you little hobbitses.